I'd like you guys to expand a little bit on the job creation aspects of wind. So, I think there are a lot of job drivers happening. One is if you manage to land the manufacturer, but, I imagine that's sort of like winning the lottery. Not every state is going to be successful doing that. So, in terms of both the construction and then the ongoing maintenance and operation of wind, how does that compare to, let's say, a combined cycle gas plant?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll volunteer to do the wind piece if someone else wants to take the combined cycle gas plant. So job creation, it's a huge issue, and it's one that we focus on all the time. There are specific incentives linked to job creation. If you're in a new market tax credit zone, for example, there are specific grants if you can apply and prove you have a certain amount of job creation. Quick numbers, and sorry, these are going to be rough, but 50 megawatt wind farm will create about 75 full-time jobs during the construction cycle. I'm going to call that 6 months. So, you start with that, I think, across the board for wind. It'll move up and down. Obviously, the tax bill in New York may be a little higher than Pennsylvania. And then the last piece is who owns and generates the return on the equity from the investment. We receive our capital. 30% comes from the government currently. I'm going to call it 50%, 55% we raise from the debt capital markets. You'll pay that back in full. And the remaining 15 or 20% is our investment. And R is generically termed the developers. And this is where we get into the concepts of community wind, because if that developer if the wind farm is owned partially by the community, such that that equity is retained there, then it also gets recycled. And I think I quoted it earlier, but there's a great study. It's NREL, it's the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, put out a study about 2 years ago, and they went through and they tracked, and they laid them side by side, not against a combined cycle, but against what we would call absentee wind developers, which is really the majority of them in the country. And it picked a community where there was a wind farm, and it followed the cycle of the cash flows as it got recycled back via a community wind developer versus a project that was located wherever it was nearby, and then the return on the equity of the project actually left. And what it found was that the long-term job creation was about 3 to 1. And that's one of the key statistics for us, because whether it's a comparison of international versus domestic, and there's a lot of dialogue on that right now, or just incentivizing states to do it, whether they get the manufacturing or not, if you know that a construction project in Montana will create 3 times the number of jobs if you do it this way than this way, we think there should be a strong push to incentivize community wind, just because it gets the states more active in keeping that job growth at home. Again, I can't do combined cycle. I don't.
Yeah, can anyone comment on that?
Sure, I can. I use 1,000 megawatts comparison, 1,000 megawatt wind farm and 1,000 megawatt combined cycle. Combined cycle plant during construction would be about the same numbers as an offshore wind, 450 to 500 construction jobs. But during operation, depending on the technical configuration of the combined cycle plant, it could be 40 to 50, possibly 60, depending on the configuration, O&M jobs during the operational phase of the project. But for the offshore wind project, a 1,000 megawatt project is 200 full-time jobs just for the wind park. And again, depending on the marine port configuration between the facilities that are available at any one given port, but I think a rule of thumb would be at least 100 jobs for the land-based portion of the offshore wind park. So that's 300 plus permanent jobs during the versus 40 or 50 during the life cycle of the project.
So Jonathan, would you say, generally speaking, the capital labor ratio of any construction, kind of conventional is actually, well, for renewables, the capital labor ratio is higher than for conventional, but then in the ongoing O&M, you're going to need more labor for
yes.
the renewables.
Yes.
So it's kind of, it's a tough calculation.